Thank you, the three of you, for joining us here. I want to keep this conversation very casual and also very honest about your journeys as content creators and how that directly links into the world of sales, right? We see so many brands out there hire content creators to post their products. And we just want to understand from a content creator's perspective how that journey has been for you and also how you've been able to grow that following, right? Because at the end of the day, if a brand approaches you, how you present yourself has to also match their vision as well. So we're going to start off with introductions. So feel free to tell us about your journey and how you got to where you are today.
Thank you so much, Michelle. Hi, everyone. It's such a pleasure to see you all and to be in this room full of amazing women and some men. So I'll start with a story. I remember when I was in standard 8, I used to really look up to Julie Bishuru. So I'd look at her and I'd think, oh my goodness, if I would just be half the woman she is, I think I'd have really gotten to what I wanted to do, because when she was on TV, she was such a poised woman, she was doing really great things. But then, so I went to Daystar, I studied communications, still trying to, pursue my dream of getting into on TV. So I remember when I was in just thinking, our lecturers used to tell us this thing about, guys, there are no jobs out there, you have to innovate, you have to make a space for yourself, and you really have to do the most with what you have. So while I was in Daystar, I think, actually right after, I started my YouTube channel. So for me, it was really just a creative outlet, because I thought, you know what, if I'm going to be going for interviews where I want to be on TV, to be a host and all of that, what is going to set me apart from thousands of women or men out there? So I figured a YouTube channel is a great place to start. So I started my YouTube channel. I thought I would go viral. When the first video, I was excited. I thought about my future career. I thought about the speeches I'd be giving, 100 videos later, cricket sounds. If you know what cricket sounds means. But I didn't give up because naturally I'm a very resilient person. So still got into the job market. I've been now doing marketing and communications for different brands across the world. But while doing that, I went onto LinkedIn one day and I just posted my story again. Now that was my viral moment. So I really grew. In 2023, LinkedIn approached me. They wanted to make me a LinkedIn top voice. So that was when I felt a lot of validation on my journey on content creation. You can imagine that's, I think, 5 years later. So it was a slow growth, just pushing through, sharing my stories. I just really felt like there's the pressure to be someone else, so that, you see people trending, you see people going viral, and there's pressure to succumb and be like them. But I really just wanted to build something that was authentically me. Like when you see my content, when you see my posts, you can see me if you know me. So for me, LinkedIn, that was the rubber stamp that I needed on my journey. So besides that, for Instagram and all the other platforms, I was just really doing it because I thought it's a great digital diary. Like I can post content that 10 years from now, I can look at it and be like, oh, cute, oh, nice, I had so much fun there. But then I noticed there's a lot of people who are also relating to that. People really want to know more about just day-to-day life. They want to know more about travel, they want to know more about, they want a lot of inspiration, which is also really a very big pillar of the content I do. Just inspiring people to live unapologetically. And what I realized was, through doing that, you build credibility and trust. So when people see you, when people relate with you, they if you tell them something about this water, they'll think, if Sharon thinks this is, good water, then I believe her, I trust her, and I can buy that. So long story short, that's how I got myself into content creation. I get to use it. I'm so happy every time I meet people and just tell them, I tell stories for a living, literally. In my 8 to 5 job or whatever, my main job, and even after, I get to tell stories and create a living that I love out of that. Yeah.
Thank you so much for that. That's actually really powerful, and yeah, consistency is definitely key. There's always the assumption of if I post something, someone's going to read it and someone's going to listen to me. But actually, being someone who's consistent means that when they're able to go on your page, they see that you're not just going to drop off one day, and then they won't be able to hear more about you. So yeah, thank you for sharing. Sharon?
So firstly, thank you so much for having me. I think it's very exciting to see creators in a forum like this. I like to say that I am in the business of commercializing storytelling. So I would love to speak to as many women in sales because it's a field I've recently entered. And maybe let me start by going to the top. So I'm actually a journalist. That's my training. I've been for the last 10 odd years. And I always, same to you, I grew up watching Catherine Kasavuli, and the minute I saw her on TV, I was like, Mom, that's where I want to be when I grow up. Fast forward, I was 21 years old, I landed my first on-screen role at K24. Very quickly ended up at the BBC, and ended up having a really lovely career in media, in international media, worked with Bloomberg, Sky News, the works, and I thought, I'm going to be a media girlie forever. But as fate would have it, I got a really incredible opportunity, and I was recruited to join Google, and I was head of PR and brand here in East Africa. So why that's important for you guys to know is because that's when the flip for me happened. Growing up, I had always wanted to be a journalist, and I wanted to tell stories for public interest, right? Because that's what journalists do. So when I pivoted to Google, that's the first time I understood how to tell, or the importance of telling stories to meet a business objective. That was never a thing that I knew, right? Because as journalists, it's all about impact, it's all about public good. So at Google, this was the first time I'm understanding, okay, telling stories to meet business objectives, that is my job. I need to understand how to connect the products, the brand that is Google, to people spending money. And it was a very interesting transition for me because, I don't know, like a part of me was dying on the inside because when you move from public to private, it can always be very conflicting. But being in that space, and part of my portfolio was looking after people on YouTube content creators, building the creator economy and the creator ecosystem. I also got to understand firsthand that content creators are taking over the advertising industry. And the amount of money that was going into these YouTubers' pockets was baffling. Like, literally, till this day, I'm like, eh. And that's because technology has democratized media. So while, I don't know how the media industry from a revenue perspective looks like, because I was very much in editorial, but from what I was seeing, a lot of brands were moving onto digital and advertising on digital platforms, advertising with YouTubers, with influencers. So again, another switch flipped, and I was like, I need to start building my own damn YouTube channel, right? Like, these people are making money, and I need to join this whole hype. So I started doing my own content. Because I had worked in media, I had a bit of a following on socials, but it was a byproduct of being on TV. When I started working at Google, I started to take it a bit more seriously. Why am I telling you this? Because one morning, I woke up and I got an email that my job was made redundant. So I woke up to no job. If you guys remember, in 2023, there was a massive tech, layoffs. People in Spotify, Meta, they just fired everyone. Not everyone, but some of us. And lucky for me, I had been spending a lot of time, a lot of money building my own personal brand. I had started a podcast. At the time, it was East Africa's #1 podcast. It's called It's Related, I Promise. You guys are all the target audience. Feel free to go and have a listen. And because of that, while yes, it was devastating to lose, an amazing job like that, but because I had a personal brand that I had been investing in building, I wasn't as shaken as had I not been building that. Again, benefiting directly from the creator economy. I had set up my YouTube channel, we had this amazing podcast, and for me, I just started to realize that the world is changing. People are going online, people are trusting. I love the word that you use, trust and credibility. That is what informs, consumer purchases and what do you buy? Because we live in a world where there's so much competition, there's so much noise, but creators control their own communities. So it's so much easier for people to trust, because Sharon Mashira has said this, hotel is amazing, because I do travel content primarily. And I think for me, I've realized that that is the future and that is the bet that I personally want to take. So my creator journey took off. I decided to start to go traveling because, I was given a nice severance package and I was like, let's go traveling, why not? And in that, I started documenting my travels. And, this got the attention of a lot of international travel brands, and they started paying me to market some of their properties, etc. Again, the power of being a content creator, the power of building your personal brand online and leveraging these tools. So eventually I realized that for me, because my expertise is storytelling, I was finding myself more drawn, and there was more value I was providing in the more high-end luxury market. Because if you think about it from a commercial perspective, people pay a premium for storytelling in the luxury industry. Because really, what are you selling? You're selling the emotional connection of a story. And that is the power of storytelling. So because I'm a storyteller, I'm a trained journalist, I know how to tell a story to drive business objectives. And when you're in the high end, in the premium side of things, that's where they really pay a premium for storytelling. So I ended up setting up my own PR agency. And so I specifically work with high-end travel and lifestyle brands, and I help them tell stories that drive their business objectives. I also work with talent. I help women like myself who have either gone through a layoff or that are trying to build their own personal brands to understand how to navigate that world, right? So for me, those are the different buckets and pockets that I wear, and that's how I got into the creator economy and how I'm now trying to commercialize storytelling.
Thank you so much for that, Sharon. I think, again, what really stood out from what you said, people buy from people. People buy from people. I can't tell you, before I buy anything, whether it's makeup or even go on a holiday, I look at reviews, right? We all go and look at reviews. If you are going to purchase something, you want to find out who else does this resonate with. And that's where the content creator economy really comes into play when it comes to sales. So thank you for highlighting that. Moving on to Mary.
My name is Linda Mary. So I'm passionate about women and content creation. So when CCA came calling, I was like, absolutely yes. So I'm so excited to be here. I always say that everything I've done in my life has brought me to this point. My content creation journey started on YouTube. I was a consumer before I was a creator. I used to watch a lot of YouTubers, and back then a lot of Kenyan YouTubers used to do a lot of travel content, like Natalie Tewa, Miss Trudy, and then some few creators started doing lifestyle, and I was like, So you can even, because initially I thought you could only document your life if you are traveling. Then I would see people just documenting their life, doing their everyday tasks, and I was like, this sounds like fun. So in 2020, I was employed, I was working as a communications person. So we were working from home, we all remember 2020, and then at that point I was just like, I've been saying that I want to create a YouTube channel, this is the time. So one random day, I did my hair. I remember those days salons were closed, I couldn't even get a salon to do my hair. I had like half of my hair was relaxed, it was relaxed, and the other part was like the hard for C. So I was looking funny because this part was like soft, this one was hard. I just did something and I stood in front of my bedroom door and I filmed the first video. And I remember it was like 5 minutes long. And then that's how I started my content creator journey. I was so excited. I got into it because I felt like it was fun. I was like, it's fun, and I also want to have fun, like the way these people are having fun. So I was so excited during the first few weeks. I used to go and check, and I see my views have gone up, 10 views, 20 views, only to realize that these were my own views. I was the one who was always coming back to watch my own videos. So after then, I told my friends, I didn't tell them initially. With time, I told my friends, I told my family. We started having 50 subscribers, 100 subscribers in 2 months. And then now, 5 years later, we are here. My turning point was when I received my first paycheck from YouTube. And I remember I went and withdrew the money from Equity. I didn't want to transfer from the bank. I was like, I want to hold this money like this. And then I was like, somebody actually paid me to show my life. I was like, this is serious. Now we are doing this. So from YouTube, that's when I got heavily into Instagram. And Instagram for me, I was there even before YouTube, but it was just, taking photos, because I love taking photos. And I used to do this every morning when I go to work. I would stand in front of my office, I take photos. I didn't know my boss was watching me. One day he was like, yeah, when Linda arrives, she has to take photos. Then getting, so I was just doing it for fun, but I didn't know that, I could do it as a career. So from YouTube, that's when I started taking Instagram seriously. And then I got into TikTok, which TikTok, I was like, I'm now serious on Instagram and YouTube. So I need somewhere where I can go to do silly things. So that's why I started TikTok. I was like, this is where I'm now going to do, silly things. But now again, the silly things have also turned into a sort of source of income for me. So 5 years later, I'm happy. I'm at a point where I'm able to earn from content creation, as much as I still have a day job left, went back, all this. But even the job that I'm doing right now is related to content creation. So initially, when I got into content creation, I was doing communications. And as part of communications, the whole thing, PR, I was also in charge of managing our company's social media. And I remember they grew so much to a point where there was an organization that came to Kenya and it was studying the kind of organization that I was doing, that particular industry. So they were like, for this kind of organization, we want to know how they do this. But for your organization, you want to talk to the communications person. You want to know how that person is managing your pages, because like your organization, when it comes to your pages, your communication is top tier. And that's when I knew, okay, I'm doing something good. And now that's why I'm saying that all these have led me to where I am, because I didn't even know that communications could lead me to now where I am as a content creator, and I'm also a social media manager. So I am using the content creation aspect, the skills that I know, and the communication skills that I used to have, I still have, to make a living. So yeah, that's the short of it.
Thank you so much for that powerful story. So on my panel, I have 2 people who content create, and then you also have a full-time role, if that's correct, right? And then one person who's actually benefited from content creation as a full-time role, right? And it's amazing, right? So it's opened up so many new job opportunities that just didn't exist 10 years ago. And that leads me really perfectly into my next question for all 3 of you, which is around turning creativity into commerce. So I know, Linda, you touched upon how you received your first paycheck and how good that felt. Can you imagine? You take videos and you get paid for it, right? And we also know that brands also do partnerships, right? So my next question to all of you is, what makes for a great brand partnership? And you can also touch upon how it is you've been able to monetize your content creation as a source of revenue as well. And that could be either through brand partnerships or actually being paid by the platform itself.
That's a great question. One thing I know for me that's worked is, number one, research. So anytime I get into any brand partnership with any brand, I get into a phase where I'm really just deep diving into research, figuring out what are the customer sentiments online about this particular brand, doing a bit of social listening, and just to figure out exactly what's going on. So that really works for me because it helps me every time I'm creating, I already know what people feel on the ground. So that's the first thing. Then also the other thing that makes for a good brand partnership for me is really understanding my audience to their core. I think for me, as Linda was saying, God has a way of working everything for good because my background in communication and marketing has really, really given me an edge when it comes to my content creation journey. Because there are things that I have insight on that some other content creators will take a bit longer to figure out. So just understanding exactly what my audience likes, who they are, what they show up like, their age, just the demographics and all of that has really, really helped. Because even as I do that, like when I'm putting out any message, when I'm putting out any story, it's reaching to that particular person. The thing about brand personas, really all of that. And I think for me, before I even started content creation, it felt like I was really scared of making it like commerce, turning it into commerce, because I remember when I was much younger, I've literally done a lot. I was a makeup artist. So I used to really love doing makeup, and I turned it into a business, and immediately I did that, I literally just stopped. Because for me it felt like, yet another thing that I have to toil so much for and all of that. So I was really scared of turning my content creation into business or commercializing it because I always felt like I would lose the heart of it. But then learning how to, knowing that you really don't have to be anyone else, your authentic self is enough. Brands literally crave for you, the real you. They want to, even when they're working with you, they really don't want to put a front. And I'm so happy that I've worked with brands that really give me the creative freedom to create things that I love, as long as I'm in line with their guidelines. It's really been a great journey. So authenticity is the other thing, because I've also seen people really, you can see a video and you're like, no. We can tell it's already, you're selling to us, and immediately people just scroll past it. But if you're authentic, as Linda was saying, if you're showing people things that you often do, then it's easy for them to buy into that. So that's another thing for me. So the authenticity has really helped with that. And let me speak a bit about LinkedIn, because LinkedIn is a very interesting platform. Not many brands know the potential that is on LinkedIn. And I've been privileged enough to work with brands that really are looking for that market as well. And the beauty about LinkedIn is it flows very easily because it's really about thought leadership. So it's really you speaking about things that you actually have a lot of information about and bringing people onto that journey, things that you can easily verify, things that are easily accessible on the online or the online space. So finding ways to ensure that I always provide accurate data, I always provide accurate information to people, and finally also value. I think that's another thing that's really, really stood out for me. You have to provide value besides making the sale. People need to see that every time they come across your content, every time they see anything that you've worked on, they've either learned something, they've been entertained, because entertainment is value as well. So you could either be very educative, informative, entertaining, or you're shifting mindsets. You've provided a different worldview as to something they were really either struggling with, or just your perspective that's shifted a mindset that they had. Yeah.
No, thank you for that. I think the audience is very kind of discerning when it comes to social media, right? When you come across ads, and sometimes you see some content creators post on behalf of brands, and you know that it doesn't marry the two of them. So I think being able to just have a shared voice is definitely kind of very key. Thank you for pointing that out. Sharon?
I would say for me, I like the question, how to turn creativity into commercial value. So what I've come to understand is that creativity is like a mindset, but the skill of commercializing, because you can have a creative mindset, but then the thing that is commercializing is you need to meet certain objectives. That's what commercializing is. And that requires a skill. Creativity is not really a skill, it's a mindset. The skill, I believe, is storytelling. And I'll give a good example. I don't know if some of you have worked with influencers or content creators here, where you genuinely get, depending on the objective of your campaign, whether it's brand awareness or driving sales, it's only the creators that do storytelling that are able to meet those objectives. Because the skill is not creativity, the skill is storytelling. Of course, storytelling requires creativity, but you have to be very careful when you're picking creators to work with, because I think a lot of the times, brand managers or people in sales, people in marketing, you'll pick a creator because they've got a big following. But are people following them because they are famous, they're scandalous? You don't know. The people who have really good communities that listen to them are the ones that do storytelling. Think about anyone who's a creator that has ever influenced you to do anything. What are they able to do? They tell stories. Like, I'll use a good example of Murugi Muni, and it's known in our influencer creator circles that girl sells, And it's because she tells stories. She picks up a phone, she goes on and on and on about a certain thing that happened to her daughter, her husband, And that's what I mean by storytelling. So how do you commercialize that? I think from a content creator perspective, just tell the damn story, right? Like, don't try to don't overthink it, tell the story. For women here who are in sales, I would say identify people that tell stories, not people that are just creative, because creativity is a mindset. To your other question about what makes a good brand partnership, I think a good brand partnership, and I don't know how those of you in the room that are either in marketing and sales, I don't know how you feel about this, but I think you need to be comfortable to let the creator drive the strategy and to drive the campaign brief. Because at the end of the day, they are the ones who know their community. They're the ones who know what will convert. And what makes for a good brand partnership is when the brand is clear. What is the point of this exercise? Are we trying to drive brand awareness, or are we trying to drive sales? Because those require two very different kind of creators, two very different kind of activations. And for me, many times in my experience on the brand side and on the creator side, there's usually a lot of confusion or a merging of the two. And so the people who are looking out for sales metrics are very upset because the marketing metrics were met and the sales metrics were not met, or vice versa. So a good brand partnership is where there's alignment, that this is a sales objective. So if we're trying to sell something and we give Sharon Mashira this job to be our content creator, then we need to measure her on it. And how do we measure sales? You give someone a discount code, whatever, like there's clear measurable outcomes. But if this is about brand awareness, then it's not, it's not aligned to therefore check and see if Sharon brought any sales, because the objective was brand awareness, not sales. So I think a good brand partnership is where those things are very clear and the brand has also done their homework to identify the alignment with the creator, because I think people generalize a lot that, if, I don't know, Sharon is doing travel or beauty, for sure she's going to be able to convert this. But sometimes it's not as simple as that. So I think that there just needs to be a lot of homework, a lot of research done by the brand to understand who it is that they're picking to be on the campaign. And I think that's what makes for a good brand partnership, in my opinion.
So I'll start with how to turn your creativity into money. There are mostly the obvious ones and then the not obvious ones. But the general rule is that you can charge for anything, a skill, an expertise, an experience that you have, knowledge that another person doesn't have, or they don't have the time to execute. So for me, I can say some of the ways I've been able to turn my creativity into money is one what I've mentioned, YouTube. I get paid by YouTube. So when people watch my videos, you know those ads that normally play, because those ads, they are put there by marketers. So you, as a marketer, you have paid YouTube to put those adverts on my videos. So when my audience watches, YouTube will give me a share, a percentage of that money that you paid them. So that is how YouTube ads work. That is one area. Another way is partnerships, both on YouTube and then also on Instagram and on TikTok. And also I'm a social media manager, and that involves content. I'm managing a page, not a page, pages for a company. So that also, I got that from my job as an influencer. I do the same thing that I do for my page, but now these are business pages. So I'm going to come up with the business strategy, content plan, I'm shooting, I'm following up with trends, I'm editing, I'm scheduling, I'm doing the captions and everything. So social media manager is one area which, if you are a creator, you need to look into it, because many years ago I don't think it was a thing, but right now so many people are hiring content creators to manage their pages, whether they are businesses, even churches are hiring. I've seen church content creators. And then another thing I can say is that I do consultations also, because still it is the knowledge that I have and the expertise. Someone wants to benefit from that. And then also, there are things that are not as direct. Not every content creator can do them, but you find yourself getting those opportunities. For example, last month I was invited to create content for an exhibition that was happening at Sarit Center. It was a 2-day exhibition, and I was not there as an influencer it was not a collaboration whereby I was creating content and posting for my audience. I was posting them on the business page of the organizer of the expo. So I was keeping their pages active throughout. It is different from if you invite me as a creator and I come and just take content and then I post afterwards. I was posting on the go. So I was taking content, I'm editing and posting and checking as we go. So by the end of the 2-day expo, which was a very good idea because I didn't use my influence, but this was a small, in terms of social media, the pages were small, they were getting like 300, they had like 300 followers. If you have 300 followers, you are getting 100 views or less. So by the end of those 2 days, we had videos doing 10,000 views. We had a video that did 50,000 views. They moved from 300, they're almost hitting 1,000 followers. That was without me telling my audience to go to this page. But the fact that you hired me as a creator, the way I'm going to create content is different from how you are going to create content. I know how I'm going to tell the story of what is happening. I know how I'm going to set the scene. I know which angles to use, which things are aesthetically pleasing. So that skill alone is going to help you. So that is one event. I'm doing events. So that was an exhibition. Also, I'm in the middle of organizing a career coach event. That is a different thing again. So these are different ways. There's someone, a coach who approached me. They wanted to do ads on Facebook and Instagram, but now they wanted me to do the video for them. So I did the video promoting their packages, and then they use that video to run ads. So there are so many ways that you can turn your creativity into money. Some will just find you do this for someone, and someone is like, okay, can you do this also? Like one day I was just chilling and someone contacted me, they're like, I want you to do a YouTube banner for me. The way yours looks so beautiful, I want you to do a YouTube banner for me and I'm going to pay you. And I was like, I thought everyone knows how to do that. So everyone does their own. Apparently not. I was like, okay, I'll charge you this much. And that's something that may not even think about it and be like, let me put this down in my rate card. But someone will approach you, provided you have a skill, an expertise, knowledge that they don't have. or they don't know, or they don't have time to implement. So for example, let me say you are organizing an event, there's no way you are running around with vendors and you're also here taking content and posting and checking them. You cannot do all that. So maybe you even have knowledge of that, but you don't have the time. So you can hire someone to do that for you. So that's the first one. And then the second one was about what makes a good brand partnership. So right from the beginning, for me, it's a brand that aligns with what I do, with who I am. My people know me. Your people always know you. There's a day that I posted a random video on my stories, and then someone sent me a DM. They're like, Linda, I knew you were going to laugh before you even start talking. So your people normally know you. So if I just take something that they're just like, no, this one is not Linda, this one she's just been paid. And the minute people just get into their mind that, oh, she's been paid to tell us this, that's it. They're not going to follow what it is that you are trying to tell them. So one, I check if the brand aligns with who I am and with what I stand for. And then also, from the brand's perspective, I like what Sharon has said. You just give the creative freedom. We are creatives, our minds think differently. I know my audience better. They know how I show up. If I were to come here and just read a script as if I'm a robot, they'll be like, something is going on. Linda, are you okay? Blink twice if you need help. So trust the creator that they know their audience. They can give you ideas. It's supposed to be a partnership. That's why it's called a collaboration or partnership. Don't think of it as, this is exactly how things are supposed to go, and now I just need someone to, no, do exactly what I do, because you can get AI to do that. But it's supposed to be a partnership. So trust them. Myself and Sharon, we are on the same campaign for Sunlight, but we did the same video, passed the same message very, very differently. If we were to do exactly the same, they're like, okay, this is how everyone is supposed to do. Immediately someone comes across Sharon's video, they'll not watch mine. Why? It's the same thing, I'm just repeating the same thing. So that's why you get different creatives. They know their audience better, trust them. And also another thing is just that respect. There's a way that someone treats you well, that you also enjoy working with them. So those are some of the things that can make a brand partnership successful.
Thank you so much for that, Linda. Round of applause, everybody. I think I'm also learning. I mean, content creators are expert storytellers, right? And the idea here is that the audience is able to resonate with that story, see themselves in the story enough so that they're willing to convert. And I'm also understanding that conversion isn't always sales, right? You can convert in terms of branding, which is why there's a split between marketing and sales. And I think also, I own a business, and I used to be of the opinion that I could bundle up sales and marketing, right? If I have someone to tell the message, then surely someone else is going to buy it. But actually they're very, very different. And being able to communicate that as a brand to content creators makes that relationship a lot easier to manage. Brilliant. So I'm going to move on to a question which is actually the center of this session, which is mastering the balance, right? And all three of you spoke about all these different things that you do in the same 24 hours. So the question is how do you balance all that you do? How do you balance the different messages that you have to put out? And also the roles as well. So Sharon, business owner, yourself, you do content creation and you do management on the side, and also Linda too. So how do you manage that balance, and what lessons can we take from that?
Great. I think the concept of balance has been, I know so many women here have struggled with that for the longest time. And I think, for me, I used to think there's this one size fits all, strategy that works for people, until I listened to a talk by, I don't remember exactly who spoke about work-life integration, and that made it so much easier for me. And also the other thing is about seasons, like understanding the seasons that you're in, because there's a lot of pressure to be like other people, as I mentioned earlier. But then your season is so different from my season. Like we have women who are probably on maternity, and they're still, career women, they're doing all these amazing things, but understanding the season that you're in is very important one, and extending your grace for that. Because I feel like we don't speak a lot about the grace bit, and we have so many women out here who are completely burnt out, completely miserable in their jobs, completely hurt and all of that. So I think it's important to extend grace to yourself in that way. Then the other thing for me that's worked also is, as I said earlier, I feel like there is a lot of integration with my career and the content creation. So even as I'm doing research from a career standpoint, all the lessons and the insights that I get from that, I'm able to apply to this, which makes it a bit easier for me to actually do this content creation thing and really enjoy it while I'm doing it. Then also having a plan, like simplifying it to the T, like knowing that this month, these are the posts that I'm going to put out. This is the kind of, literally even planning it out beforehand, having the concept note and trying to figure out exactly what you're going to do at that time will make it easier for you. Because I realize, I don't know if it's the same for all of you, that there's many times where you get actual creative block and you're really struggling, like you want to take the breaks, you want to really just, exist in your own world, but when you have a plan, it makes it easy for you to show up even in those things. It makes it easy for you when you've created beforehand, you already know exactly what you're supposed to shoot, you already know whatever you're supposed to write, because I write a lot. That also helps me a lot because I know in this month I need to do this posts, I need to do this kind of content on LinkedIn beforehand. So that's a second thing. Having a plan is very important. Then the other thing is also having a community. One thing that I cannot discount is the importance of literally having a community of creatives around you. Because this thing is hard. It might look so easy, but there are moments where you really probably did, a partnership with a brand, it didn't work out as you thought it would, and it's very devastating for a creator. But when you have a community, it's much easier. And I know the thing about women that I love so much is the fact that we're very communal. I mean, look at all these women. I'd want to see if a man's conference or event was organized, exactly how the room would be looking by now. I'm so curious. So maybe the men in here can tell us about that. But I think women, the thing that makes women even live longer sometimes is really we just don't do it alone. And having people around you, like knowing that you don't have to do everything, you don't have to be everything to everyone at the same time is very, very important. So even when it comes to content creation, also the other thing is sometimes it's okay to pause. It's okay to be like, you know what, like I just need to take some time to focus on me. And the beauty about that is when you're at your best self, you offer the best in every single area of your life, in your job, in content creation. People can see energy from the back of the room. People can feel, and one thing about content that I've seen is energy is unmatched. Guys, I think that's something that we don't speak about a lot, but people are already going through so much in their life. So when they come to the digital space, all they're looking for is some light. And if there's something I'm very, very particular on is inspiring people to live unapologetically. If it's a trip I've taken, if it's speaking, if it's writing, my goal is to always inspire people to live unapologetically and to spread some light with that. So even as you're doing life and trying to balance your career, content creation, and all of that, I think it's important to know that your energy is transferred very easily, even on social media. So it's guard that space. Be very intentional about your energy, be very intentional about how you show up on that space. And I think that will really help you a lot with that whole thing. I think at the end of the day, it's different for everyone. What works for me could be different from Sharon and Linda, but all these things have helped me show up differently in the different areas of life. And I think for me, it's also it's a bit different because LinkedIn is a whole world of its own. So sometimes it can get very complicated for me because now some people know me on Instagram and then when they come onto LinkedIn, sometimes they're like, wow, like she has a whole job. Like she's not always just doing this content for us, like funny videos and all of that. Like she actually has a full-time job. So I think it's also finding that balance in that way is very interesting for me. But at the end of the day, my core values have to be maintained. The living unapologetically in every single thing that I do, the posts that I make make on LinkedIn, at the end of the day, my core is to make the world a better place through every single thing that I put out. So even if you come from my Instagram page and you land on LinkedIn, you will notice that the baseline is the same. I could be speaking about global warming, I could be speaking about climate change and nuclear weapons and war, but at the end of the baseline is live unapologetically. When I'm on my Instagram, I could literally be doing whatever, a restaurant review, travel. At bottom line, live unapologetically. So I think for me, it's really just understanding that seasons are different, platforms are different as well, and finding your way around meeting your people at the point that they're at. Yeah.
I would say for me, I try not to think about mastering a balance because I think we can all agree that there's no such thing. So I think about it as optimizing for ease. And the reason I say that is because optimization is about tinkering things and figuring out what works for you in that season. Because there's sometimes you're killing it at work, but your personal life is suffering. Or your personal life is fantastic, but your work life is suffering. And I think so many times as women, we feel guilty for those two buckets being having this tension with each other. So for me, I'm all about optimizing for ease. I'll give you one example. Yes, I'm a content creator, and I'm also a business owner. I'm also an entrepreneur. Because I'm an entrepreneur and I'm a new entrepreneur, it takes so much of my time that I'm not able to meet content creation with the amount of dedication we can all agree it requires. So how do I optimize for ease? The guy standing right in front of me, his name is Bear. He films most of my content, and in the creator circles, that's very frowned upon, right? Because people take a lot of pride in their own filming, their own editing, but I can't sit there and allow myself to be shamed and feel any less of a creator because I'm not filming or editing my own content. I'm optimized to have time to actually run my business, It will mean that I will have to invest in a videographer, and of course, we gotta pay creatives, Bear's getting paid for this. So my rate card will therefore look much different than any other creator. I will potentially be a lot more expensive because I have a team that I need to pay. But that's not my cost to bear, that's the cost of the brand. But what they know that they're getting, fine, Sharon will be more expensive, but the quality of her production will be, top level. Also, because Sharon is not thinking about the editing and those things, I'm free to be creative and to bring the value that you're paying me twice as much for. So what would you rather? And I said again, it's so important to give creators the leading role in a campaign. Because if we go back to what have creators replaced, they've replaced advertising agencies. Whereas before, advertising agencies would follow your brief to the T and they would put that advert somewhere else, like on TV. That's not how we work. We're not creating adverts to put for our audience. We're telling our own story through the lens of your brand. That's a completely different engagement. So back to my point on optimizing for ease, don't feel guilty paying for the conveniences that you need to pay for. And sometimes it doesn't have to look like paying someone or outsourcing certain things. It can look like whatever. But the point I'm making is think about mastering a balance as optimizing for ease and deciding what does ease look like in my life and optimizing for that outcome.
Hello, so for me, first of all, there's no such thing as a perfect balance. So it won't be like this, you are going to give your career 50% and your personal life exactly 50%, and your friends, there are times you will see your friends less and you'll be working late hours, and sometimes you'll be having more fun with your friends out there. So what I try to do is I pour into each jar, like each area of my life may not be exactly the same, but I try to make sure that I pour into that. So something like content creation, I put in place measures to ensure I'm not burnt out so much all the time. For example, I don't post on Sundays. So like today, I was posting on my stories when I was here. When I leave here, my people will see me on Monday, and I tell them, they know by now. I have to keep telling them, guys, see you on Monday. tomorrow is my day, family day, resting day. Once in a while when I feel like, okay, I've been going at it for like months, I skip maybe uploading a YouTube video for a week. A week is enough for me to rest and reset. And then at the end of the year, December, I remind them, guys, this is my annual leave. We'll see each other after 3 weeks, 1 month. So I do take those breaks. And then also I plan myself in advance. For example, now for my day job, tomorrow Sunday, that's when I'll sit down and be like, okay, for my social media job, for my business, not my business, the business that I'm posting for the company, what am I posting next week? So I'm planning the content tomorrow so that, I'm not in a rush and like, I don't have anything to post. So I have to plan for that, and most times that follows the already bigger plan that I had at the beginning of the month, when we have, the sit downs with my bosses, and I'm like, what are we focusing on this month? So I put all that into my content calendar, so I plan myself in advance, and then now I plan my personal content. And I'm like, on Instagram, for YouTube it's easier for me right now, because it's just like, they know I'm going to give them a weekly vlog, or maybe if sometimes I do topics on self-development, maybe I'm going to pick a topic, I'm going to talk about this, I do all that. And like right now, I'm currently in a YouTube program. There's something that YouTube is introducing to creators, and it has picked a few YouTubers to test it out with, so I'm part of that. So I also have like work for that, because they give us like assignments, whatever. So when I'm planning my personal, that's when I know my Instagram, my TikTok, my YouTube, I'm doing this. And then also I just understand that there are seasons where I'm going to focus more on one thing more than the other. And I'm okay with that, because I know, for example, maybe this time is I'm going at it, and then there's a time when it will be like quiet. I won't have so many brand partnerships, maybe not so many events. Then I'm able to spend more time with my family. I have a daughter, so sometimes I just prepare her. I'm like, hey mama, this week I'll be working a lot. But next week me and you. So I try to also balance like that. I think that's it.
Thank you for sharing. I think as ambitious women, we try to do it all at the same time, and give 100%. I always like to see it as, if I had 3 glasses, I'd rather have 1 glass full than the 3 glasses you can only fill 30%, right? Because the quality also kind of diminishes. So taking rest is very, very important. Unfortunately, we've come to the end of our panel today, audience. I'd like to give a huge round of applause to my panelists here, and also to yourselves. And hopefully you've taken away some gems, and definitely feel free to connect with our content creators here. I'm sure there are some gems that they can share with you all. Thank you.